This is Sean McFarland with the Dallas Morning News. Nice
Hey,
to meet
Sean.
you.
Pleasure.
Could you just walk us through, I guess, what this trade was like from your perspective, the decision to waive the no trade clause, I guess, what these last few days or weeks have been like for you?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'll start you at the beginning. It was Thursday night. I received a phone call from David Stearns, which is not that unusual. And so I picked up the phone, asked him how he was doing, what's going on. And he mentioned to me that they had a trade in place with the Rangers if I was willing to waive my no trade clause. So it definitely took me as a shock. I was surprised to hear that. Um, I went ahead and asked him some more questions, basically evolving into the final question was like, am I basically the only thing that's standing in the way of this? Like, is this already a done deal? I have to approve it. And he said, "Yep, pretty much. Like it's just dotting the I's and crossing the T's would pretty much be this at this point." So um, I was obviously taken aback from that, and I said, "Okay, well, it's obviously a huge life and career decision, so." We don't want to make any decision, off the cuff. So we need to go ahead and deliberate on this. I need to talk with my family, and we need to have some time for this. They were very accommodating with the time, said no problem. I also had let them know that my daughter's first birthday was tomorrow, and that would be encompassing a lot of my time that next day, and so. They said that's totally fine. Go ahead and do what you need to do. So with that information, we celebrated my daughter's birthday on Friday. But then once we finished and it was kind of nighttime, like I pretty much got on the phone from that night until basically Sunday afternoon. So when I went to bed, I was on the phone, and then when I woke up, I got back on the phone and was um, trying to get as much information as I could possibly get to make this decision. Um, what we ended up coming up with was that the Mets would not have brought this trade if they didn't feel like it put the Mets in the best position to win going forward. They made it very apparent that they weren't actively shopping me, but that the Rangers really, really, really wanted me. They made it extremely apparent, and they, were persistent enough that they got to the point where a trade was to be had. Um, so from my perspective, when I talked with CY, we talked for about an hour and a half going over, different things and processes and where the team was at. And I tried to familiarize myself with the Rangers and where they were at. Um, because this was going to be, a huge, huge decision for me. Spring training's in Arizona. We live in Port St. Lucie, Florida. We just finished our house that we've been working on, and it was meant to host, and it was meant to like have spring training parties and team get-togethers, and so we had kind of built this life centered around that we were going to be New York Mets until the very end. And so there was a lot of logistical things that we had to try and get over those hurdles in order to try and make this make sense. But then also we wanted to know that there was a willingness and a want, for if we went to the Rangers, that they wanted to win, and they wanted, because that is my ultimate goal. Like the personal stuff, that's all great. And I think it's evident by this decision that there's a solid chance that if I stay healthy, if I just kept producing, that there's a chance that it would have been me and David Wright would have been pretty much the only ones that had started and finished with the Mets, and I could have had a pretty good chance of having the numbers in the rafters. But that's not what it all means to me. I would honestly rather win a World Series. And I thought, that was in a good position, was trying to do that with the Mets. But they had made it, apparent that like they felt like the best way to move forward for the Mets was this trade. And so I needed to know that the Rangers were committed to trying to win a World Series as well, and that this wasn't a rebuild that I was coming into, that this was somewhere that one, I was extremely wanted, and they made that abundantly clear. And two, was somewhere that I felt like in the next 5 years we would be competing for World Series titles, year in and year out. And Chris made that very, very apparent. It's great when I don't know if anybody knows this, but I actually was in big league spring training as a minor leaguer when he was with the Mets. And I've been able to see him from afar a little bit, but now been able to have some really great conversations with him, and he is just as competitive, if not more competitive than me. And so I got the feeling from him and from his support staff that this was not a rebuild. This is just a restructuring, and both sides felt like this would be really beneficial for each side, and that both sides would still be in a very good position to win. Actually, an even better position to win for each side coming out of this trade. So after getting all of that information and kind of checking my boxes, we went ahead and waived the no trade clause. And that brings us to now, when in the matter of 72 hours or so, life completely changes, and now you're a Texas Ranger rather than a New York Met. And I couldn't be more excited about everything that I'm hearing. From Jake. I knew Jake very well when I was in New York. Have stayed in touch with him, and he has nothing but amazing things to say about the Rangers. He's been on both sides, and he has absolutely thrived in this environment, and thinks that we are capable of winning a World Series. And he is really, really excited about this. And so talking with him, and talking with many other people inside the organization, including Skip, all I hear is that they're very, very excited about this next season. We're not in a rebuild mode. Like, we're going for it. We think that this next season is a very exciting time for the Texas Rangers. And so it's gotten me very excited for this season. And obviously I would not have waived the no trade clause if I did not think that I could come here and win and be a part of chasing that World Series.
Thanks, man. Appreciate
Yep,
it.
of course.
Okay, Kennedy.
Hi, Kennedy Landry with MLB.com. Welcome to Texas.
Hey, thank you.
What is you said you were familiarizing yourself with the Rangers. Obviously, you're in the National League. You don't see them as much. What have you learned, I guess, about this organization over the last couple of days as you've come to terms with this?
Yes. Well, one of the things that really stood out to me was how well their pitching and defense did last year, and how offensively there was a little bit of a letdown. But that a lot of the tools are there offensively, and you have a lot of young guys that are extremely, extremely talented. And so what I saw was a lot of promise from the offensive side of things. And then honestly, one of the biggest things that you have to have in order to compete for a World Series is pitching. I mean, you saw, that the Dodgers pitching in order to win the World Series. You saw Yamamoto go complete game twice. You saw Snell going in the seventh inning. Like, you see that pitching is a huge aspect to winning the World Series. You could even say that the Dodgers, in that World Series, probably, they weren't as hot as they were with like the Brewers. And so the pitching is really the first thing that you need to have. And some guys like to call it run prevention. And when you combine the pitching with the defense, and what I saw was that is already there, and you're not losing a lot of pieces of that. And I think that that's something that CY really prides himself on. And so I didn't realize that they were like there when I went and looked, like they were number one in a lot of things. And that's really, really impressive with the type of pitchers that are out there for all organizations now. I think that pitching is in the best spot it's ever been since the game has started. And to be number one in a lot of those categories is something that is something to really be proud of. And honestly, it's something that I didn't know. And when I looked at these pieces, I saw that they really weren't that far off from being a World Series contender, because something that I've always said is you always just have to get your foot in the door, right? You just have to get, to the party. You got to be in the dance. And once that happens, it really comes down to whoever is the hottest and whoever is playing the best baseball in October for those series, because you have to get through, a 3-game series or a 5-game series where things can, bad luck wise or good luck wise, like bounce one way or another, and it can happen really quickly. And that can be the series right there. And I experienced it in 24 when we made it to the CS. And for me, the biggest thing is just worrying about getting your foot in the door. And then if you have extremely good pitching, that really helps with once you're in the door. So for me, I see, a lot of promise from the young guys. And then obviously, Corey Seager, his career speaks for itself. And you see guys like Wyatt Langford coming up that he's going to be a real impact player, and he has a really high ceiling. And I'm coming in here to try and mentor someone that, it's really unbelievable to say this, even for myself. Like, I'm coming into my 10th year in the major leagues. I've been through a lot of different regimes, a lot of different hitting coaches. There's a lot of different ways to skin the cat, and I, have been able to kind of through my career be able to make adjustments, be one kind of player, and then realize, well, there's maybe more in the tank over here. And when you gain something, you usually give up something. So how much of that do you want to do? So really, one of my jobs coming over here is to impart as much wisdom as I can on these younger guys with so much talent. And really kind of step into this role that like Jay Bruce and Curtis Granderson and David Wright were for me. That's my role with these guys. And I think I can relate with them a lot. Even down to, I was known as being a little bit injury prone early in my career. And then we've been able to make a lot of adjustments and be able to put up 4 years of 150 plus games the last 4 years. And that's taken, being very introspective, looking at yourself and saying, what can we do better, nutrition wise, hydration wise, and also, preparation wise for the game and the season. So I'm here to be, a useful source and a mentor for a lot of these guys on the offensive side of things. And then to, obviously add, I think I'm a pretty good player. So obviously to add what I bring to the playing side of things as well. But it is one thing that the Rangers made very, abundantly clear when I was being courted by them was, we love the player, we want the player, but we've done a lot of background on the person, and we want that person here, and we want you to impact these guys by being yourself and by imparting your knowledge. And so I'm really excited about that journey.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon.
Yep.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Brandon, how did the daughter do with the crush cake? Did she get it all over her face? Was it a giant mess?
Yeah. So we we're one of those crazy families right now where we haven't like introduced the sugar yet,
Okay.
and so we kind of made like this healthy my wife made the like healthy cake, and she did get it everywhere, and she was eating it, but most of it ended up on the floor. We'll have some pictures to share with that. It's been a weird, last 3-4 days,
Yeah.
and been trying to get all of those bases covered before we get to the, sharing the pictures of the crush cake and all that stuff. But we did it at my parents' house. My parents live down here in St. Lucie now as well, and Chelsea's mom came over, and we put the paper on the floor, and had her, get all into it, and just, get all a mess everywhere. And we had an absolute blast with it. But we also took her to the zoo, and so it was a big day for her.
Big day.
Yeah, she needed extra naps the next day. So, but we absolutely enjoyed it, and she loved it as well.
Awesome. So the 2023 Marlins, Skip Schumacher was the manager. What do you remember about those teams? Because they were pretty pesky.
That's what I remember. I remember them playing hard-nosed baseball. I remember them, trying to figure out, like, not everybody can win the same way. You have to find out what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and figure out, okay, so what's the other side's strengths and weaknesses, and how do we expose that? And to me, it seemed like they tried to expose that every single time. We always hated playing the Marlins, to be honest with you, because they were so pesky, they were so athletic, and just like they wanted to win. You could tell there was like a chip on the shoulder, like they wanted to win at whatever cost it was. If that meant bunting the guy, if that meant doing a sacrifice bunt, or even doing a safety squeeze, and getting the guy in. It was all about putting pressure on the other side. And that's what I get from Skip as well when I was talking with him. Is there's not one way to win a ball game, but we need to use, our mind, and not just say, well, this is the way that I've always done things, and so we're going to just try and win this way. It's like, no, you need to look at yourself, you need to look at your team, and you need to figure out what are our strengths and weaknesses. How does that match up to the other side, and how do we expose their weaknesses to our benefit? And that's what I always remember from Skip and his teams, was that competitiveness being there, and that willing to win it at whatever cost. And I relate to that a lot, because I've had a lot of different ways of succeeding in this game, and it's not always been the same way. But when it comes down to it on the field, I don't really care, if we win by 1 run or if we win by 10. Like, I just want to figure out some way to beat you. And so for me, I resonate with him a lot on that, and just being scrappy, and just fighting tooth and nail on the field to be able to figure out how do we win today. I know that in baseball you can't win every game, but I've seen how important it is when, I- you know, 3 years, I think the last 3 years I've either made the playoffs or lost the playoffs by one game. And it's even been less than that sometimes. So I see how important every single game is, and Skip does as well. And we want to, be known as very, scrappy and fight tooth and nail kind of guys. That doesn't mean that you aren't extremely talented. We can have
Yeah.
very, extremely talented people. But you want to make sure that, you're felt. Like, people hate playing you. That's kind of the way you want to be known.
Okay. And then you haven't played right field for a while,
Hmm.
but there's a chance you'll have that opportunity here.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
The biggest thing for me is getting reps in spring training, right? So, like, Wherever we decide upon, and that's still to be talked about, right field or left field. Because what we want to do is, we want to make sure that the other guys are comfortable as well, Carter and Langford, and like, wherever we decide on, we want to make sure it's best for the unit, because you work well, like you're a unit out there, you're covering ground as a unit. It's not just, well, let me cover my ground in right field and whatnot. Like, we need to move together as a unit so that we can cover as much ground as possible in the outfield. So we want to make sure that everybody's comfortable with that. But for me, I have had, the pleasure of playing all three positions. And for me, the biggest thing is just getting the reps out there in spring training. As long as I can do that, I feel good about making a transition over there if we need to. It's just different angles. And the corners are probably, as far as getting used to them and those angles and like the side spin, and when a righty or a lefty hits it opposite handed and it's a fly ball, it's going to come back into the field, and just remembering all these little cues. It's all definitely stuff to pay attention to, but all stuff that can be remedied by the reps in there. And I'm not just talking about like game reps, like getting out there and batting practice,
Sure.
and getting the fly balls, and we're just working on that in spring training. So I do feel good about it. Once you kind of get on that routine, it becomes like riding a bike. But we'll just make sure that we're getting the reps out there.
So your outfield coach is Travis Jankowski,
Yeah, I know. Janko was a former teammate of mine. It's so crazy. The funny part was, if I stayed with the Mets, the guy that was going to be the outfield coach was was a teammate of mine in the GCL and the Sally League. So either way, I was going to have a teammate of mine being my coach now, and that's a weird feeling, but it's something that I'm very proud of, because hey, not many people get to this point. And it's very difficult to keep playing this long. So I'm very proud of that, but I also know that Janko and I's relationship will flourish from this. It's something that we can already be honest with each other on, and tell each other, this is what I see. This is what I'm thinking. What about you? Let's have, constructive criticism. I had that with my prior outfield coach in Antoine Richardson. And it's something where, we don't want coaches and someone that will just tell you exactly what you want to hear, right? You want people to be honest with you. And when they're your coaches, you want to have fair assessments of where you can get better and how we accomplish that. And so for Janko and I, that will already be there. And we'll be able to have open and honest conversation, and respect each other at the end of the day. But it's awesome to have a guy that I've already played with and already started a relationship with as a coach, especially in such proximity as far as base running and outfield go. But I'm excited to work with him, and he's an amazing person. So that just makes this transition even easier.
Great. Well, looking forward to having you here. It's a great area.
Thank you.
It's a good beat crew. It's a lot smaller than you're used to, so you're gonna enjoy it.
That'll be great. I'm looking forward to working with everybody, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Brandon, Stephen Hawkins with the AP. You kind of answered everything I was going to ask about the outfield, so I will ask: are you going to buy a hosting house in Surprise, Arizona now?
So, yeah, we got to work on that. I know it's so weird. We were trying to get that all set up here, and it's been 3 years in the making. So I don't really have the 3 years to get that in the making here. We will definitely be setting things up. I don't know if it will be at a house. I don't know, we did like Pop Stroke a few years with the Mets. Something along the way, I will definitely be getting the team together. That's a big part of, being a team and creating the chemistry is, I'm going to be brand new to a lot of these guys. I want them to be able to get comfortable with me, to get to know me, and so that we can have, good constructive conversations, and that we can become, great teammates and push each other to be better. So, in order to do that, we will definitely be doing something. I haven't narrowed that stuff down in spring training yet, but it's a big part of what my mentors did, and it's my role, as a mentor now to be able to, do dinners, to be able to bring guys out to events, to create that camaraderie, and that will definitely be a part of it. I don't know if it will be at a house and surprise. I don't know if it'll be at some event space that we get, but we will get that somehow.
Is the 1-year-old your only child?
My only child right now, yes. Tatum, my daughter, she just turned 1 on Friday. She's an absolute joy, and so blessed to have her. But yes, the only one for right now.
You're having babies. I'm having grandchildren, so it
Oh
goes
my
fast,
gosh!
man.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks,
That's
man.
such a blessing.
All right, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Laura, go ahead.
Hey, Brandon, it's Laura.
Hey,
How are you
good to
doing?
see you again
To see you.
from a different light.
100%. I just wanted to ask, over the last 24 hours, there's been a huge outpouring from fans, just in terms of appreciation with their interactions with you.
Yeah.
What's your reaction to that? And also, how do you think that'll translate to your new home?
Yeah, yeah, no, I will, I put a post out probably about an hour ago now or so, and just trying to do the best that I could. I think the way that I started it was there really are no words to fully express how the like all-encompassing love and support that I always felt from the New York Mets fan base. They always appreciated whatever the results were. They always appreciated the way that I went about the game, the way that I hustled, and the person that I was. And that will never go away. And it was 14 years that I spent in the Mets organization, developing relationships. There are fans that I met in 2011 that I still interacted with, all the way up to the end of last year. And it's something that I will definitely miss. It's one part of my life and a chapter that is over, and that's always sad. I will always remember the Mets fans fondly. One of the coolest experiences I had was after we won the NLCS, standing on the field and enjoying that moment with a packed sellout crowd at Citi Field, and being part of that first like clinching game at Citi Field, and kind of having that come full circle. I wish, I wish could have brought a World Series to that fan base, but having that come like full circle moment from being drafted in 2011, just this kid from Cheyenne, Wyoming, to, standing on Citi Field and having, us going to, the CS, and I might have said the CS, I meant the DS, but having us go to the CS and, and do it in front of the Mets fans that I had always wanted to win for. So for me, it's sad. It's the ending of one chapter of my life, and the beginning of a next. I will always remember the Mets fan base fondly. I absolutely loved them, and I tried to leave everything that I possibly could out on the field for them. But I do know, ultimately the goal was to bring a World Series. Fell short of that, but hopefully, and it seems like from the outpouring support that I've been getting that the fan base remembers me fondly as well, and that's always a great feeling to feel like you are appreciated for what you did for the organization and the effort that you put out on a daily basis. I have definitely felt that support, and I felt that love, and I cannot thank the Mets fan base enough for that.
Awesome. And good luck in Texas.
Thank you so much.
Jared Sandler.
Brandon, Jared Sandler with Rangers TV and Radio. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Jared.
A couple questions. One, what was it like growing up playing baseball in Wyoming? I understand so high school baseball wasn't an option, so you played Legion ball, and
Yeah.
it's obviously not a baseball hotbed. So what was
No.
that like?
Yeah, it's not like Texas. It's such there's so many players, so many great players that come out of Texas. Wyoming was, like you said, a little bit of the unconventional route. We're trying to make it more conventional now. We're trying to, the program has really taken a lot of strides even since I've been there. And one thing was, that's weird to people was that you didn't have high school baseball. So for me, it really wasn't that big of a deal. It was kind of a bigger headline than what I felt like it actually was. But I still played baseball. It wasn't like they saw me, out in throwing an ice fishing pole, and they were like, "Oh, he's got good hands. Like maybe he'll be a good baseball player." Like we still played 80 games a year, which is not full year round, kind of like how it is done in Texas or California or Florida now, but for me, I'm glad that I didn't play year round because I learned a lot of things from other sports that have really helped me to become the player that I am in Major League Baseball. I learned a lot from football as far as the weight room went and as far as two-a-days and kind of like just the mental toughness of football and the team camaraderie of it. And then I also learned a lot from track in the fact of like running mechanics and like all of those things as far as how to push your body and like how you could push your body to limits that you didn't really know, and how to get ready for like one performance once a week. Baseball you play every day, and that's a little bit different than when you're trying to, it's more like playoff baseball when you're trying to just get ready for like one game, and this one game is super important. So there's a lot of things that I learned from not just playing baseball year round, for me personally, but also where I grew up, it's always home for me. When I go back there and I go back to the big skies, which is something that Texas has that I am excited about. But I go back there and I'm very grateful for growing up there. There's a lot that growing up in Wyoming taught me, that I use in daily decisions today. But growing up there and playing baseball was unconventional. But my dad, he always told me, if you're good enough, they'll find you. And it just kind of helped me to be motivated to try and do whatever it took and kind of just look at myself in the mirror and say, am I getting the most out of myself? Rather than trying to like look to the sides and compare myself to other players, because I always just felt like, well, there's someone out there that's better, so I need to keep getting better. And there's someone out there that their livelihood depends on this, and they need to get out of whether that, in the Dominican, they say, what, you hit your way off the island, you don't walk your way off, that kind of deal. Like, for me, I was always thinking there's someone else out there that's trying to get better right now. And so I need to be trying to get better. And that was really important for me in my mindset, coming into pro ball and just trying to look at myself and ask myself, am I getting the most out of myself? And so I really loved growing up there. It's something that I'm very proud of. But it was the unconventional route. And I'm trying to give back to that community and help them to make that an easier process. But I did kind of in college, when I was looking at colleges, I kind of was like, I'd like to be south of the Mason-Dixon line because I was kind of tired of playing in cold weather, and playing in the dome. I'm not unhappy about that down in Texas. So there were things about it that playing in that cold weather and whatnot, where I'm like, hey, this is a nice added benefit. But I really enjoyed growing up there and kind of going the unconventional route. But I do think there's a lot of similarities between Wyoming and Texas that will feel like going home.
I appreciate that. And then one more specific question.
Yeah.
You've never really, I shouldn't say never, I'm sure there's a growth part of this, but you hit lefties and righties. Right? We have a
Mhm.
lot of lefties in the game who maybe, they platoon or they struggle against
Yeah.
lefties. You don't. Has that always been natural? What's that
Nope.
evolution been like for you?
Yeah, no, it's been something that I take a lot of pride in. It was something that was kind of a career. My career was going to go one of two ways. I was either going to start becoming one of those platoon guys, or I was going to start hitting left-handed pitching better. And I basically, and it was around 2020. I think it might have been 21. We ended up having all right-handed BP throwers when we were with the Mets, and I basically got this idea that I was like, if I never really see it, then I'm not going to get better at it. And so I asked our GM at the time if we could get a left-handed BP thrower. And he said, he asked why and whatnot. And when we brought up the reason, he said, okay, we'll try it out. And that brought up Rafi, and we called him Izquierdo, obviously, and Rafi came up from the minor leagues and started throwing us left-handed BP. But then I took it to another level after talking. I got this really fortunate opportunity to talk to Todd Helton on the phone. It got set up where I said in the media somewhere that, like, hey, I'd love to pick Todd Helton's brain because he was a Colorado Rocky when I was growing up and was so good at hitting, left-handers and right-handers. And he told me that he would have his strength coach at the time, who was left-handed, like actually pitch to him and try and get him out. And he said it really helped him a lot with hitting left-handers. And so I basically stole his idea. And I said, Rafi, can you throw curveballs? Can you throw sliders? Can you throw two seams and whatnot? And like change ups and whatever you got, like get me out, like make me look stupid, and that was one of the turning points for me was when I decided I don't really care what I look like in the cage or anything. Like I want you to make me look stupid. I want you to get me out, and I want this to be as game-like as possible. And from there on out, we started to see my numbers improve, and I started to get better, and we would close the distance and make it even harder. And we would try and figure out whatever way we could to make it as real, like as game like as possible. And I had such success with it that I continued it into the off season. I would have, like the Mets clubby, he was in the minor leagues and he was left-handed, and I would do it in the off season. I would have him pitch to me, and then I just continued that all the way till now, and it's been something that has really helped me to stay on top of it. But it was a big turning point in my career that made me much more comfortable against left-handed pitchers, and we've continued that ever since.
What's Rafi's last name, Brandon?
Rafi Hernandez, sorry.
Got it.
And he actually texted me not too long ago. But he's actually their hitting coach now. He's one of their hitting coaches, which is such a cool story for me, because when he got brought up, he was like, I don't really just want to be the BP guy. Like I want to be a hitting coach, and I was like, okay, well, I get that, but like you're gonna get a lot of major league experience up here, and like we'll compensate, like we'll figure out some way to make this comfortable, because BP guys don't get paid that much. So I was like, let's just figure out a way to make this comfortable. Like I'll help whatever I can, but like you're indispensable to like my success. So like I need you. And then it's really cool because it's come full circle where he was like, no, I want to go back down so that I can become a hitting coach and then work my way up. To this year, he was promoted to be one of the hitting coaches, and now he is a hitting coach in the big leagues for them. So for me, that was a really cool first full circle moment, and he deserves every bit of it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brandon.
Yeah, of course.
All right. It doesn't look like we have any more questions. So we will end it there. Brandon, we really appreciate the time today. And I think safe to say we all look forward to more time with you in the near future.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on. Sorry for the delay. Was having some technical difficulties with the microphone on the iPad. So thanks to everyone for being patient with me. And yeah, looking forward to creating relationships with all of you.
Thanks, man. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Yeah, happy holidays to you guys too.